So yeah, it's great. I feel like obviously like they had to
Oh,
how do you say the
Stone? What?
no when
So?
you're like being so picky about the details that you
Nitpick?
no, but you like
I don't know what that.
splitting hairs.
Okay. Okay. Hello, mis hermonstras. Welcome to yet another Drag Race review podcast. I'm your host, Terry Blas.
And I am Chucho Quintero.
And this is TheJWord, your home for all things Drag Race Mexico. How are you?
I am great. I'm excited to talk about this episode.
Me too. As always.
We're so close to the end.
Well, I want to talk about this because of what happened at the end of this episode, but we'll get there. Yeah. As always, we start with housekeeping. So let's get into it. This was so funny that I had to mention it. This past week, well, a few episodes are out now of some of the different franchises, right? They've started up again and I'm getting into them. So what was funny was that Mexican icon Dora the Explorer showed up on not one, but two Drag Race franchises recently, Philippines and Down Under. On Down Under, the person who dressed up as Dora, her name is Flor, and she is from Guatemala, I believe.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, and she's on Down Under, so it's kind of she dressed up as her for like a mini challenge. And then on Philippines, the Queen Tiny Deluxe, she entered the Werk Room dressed as Dora with her little backpack and her little map, and it was pretty great. So yeah, if you're watching either of those, check those out.
The before these two, the other Dora the Explorer in drag that we had was Georgiana in La Matraka. She dressed up for not Snatch Game, but like Family Feud that they did like as impersonating famous people.
The LA Times this past week has a really great photo spread and article written about Valentina, and it's a really good article. I read the whole thing. It's not short, but it talks a lot about her growing up in LA, how she feels when she's in Mexico, you know, the kind of drag she does, her relationship with her dad who passed away not long ago. So it's a really good article, and the photos in it are really cool. So if you want to check out that article, it's in the LA Times. The next piece of housekeeping is that we have finally seen the set for Drag Race Brazil. What would you like to say about this?
No, I mean, we said so when
we've been curious about what it would be like, right?
When they announced Drag Queen as the host, like the moment they announced Drag Queen as the host, we said we clocked that everything was the same, and like it wasn't like not a lot of people said so until the Meet the Queens. That's when a lot of people were like, what the hell? But now that we get a trailer, it's like, oh no, like it's literally they barely painted the walls.
Yeah. Not only that, but they also announced the host of Drag Race Germany.
Yeah. We didn't get a little like a promo, you know, like a video. So we don't know yet what's going to happen. But so far the photo that we saw, it's pretty standard. So like we don't know.
They also released a photo of one of the guys on one of the guys on the judging panel, and he looks nice.
Yeah.
So who knows?
But yeah, I mean, God, I cannot wait to see more footage from their Drag Race Germany so that we can complete the trilogy of Colombian Drag Race.
How funny. Colombian Drag Race Colombia is a trilogy.
Literally, yeah.
Drag Race Colombia is a trilogy of Mexico, Brazil, and Germany.
Yes.
How funny.
I would love if they had, because it's still Colombia, so they still have to hire Colombian everything. So I would love if it were the same pit crew in different weeks for each of the franchises.
That would be funny.
It would be incredible. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, this next thing, I died laughing when I saw this. So it was so funny. And apparently Matraka thought it was funny too because she made it her new profile photo. But do you want to explain this?
Yeah, so Alexis Mateo, like, so she went in on the joke because she was like, oh, I saw this on a plane and I died laughing. Who made this? Oh my god, who made this?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like her tweet. And then she also did the same on Instagram, like, oh my god, who made this? And posted the same photo. But everybody clocked that it's like, girl, it's so clear that you made this. But
Yes.
yeah, anyway, it caught on because it's hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, it's just Matraka with her mullet next to a dog, like one of those jappy little dogs
That
that
also
looks
has a mullet.
yeah, also has a mullet and looks pretty much like her, to be honest.
But like the dog's also wearing like a shirt, like a matraca kind of shirt.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I think it's hilarious. It's and funny that this sort of what I love about matraca is that shows she has a sense of humor. That she's
Mhm.
like whatever, cool, cute. So anyway, that takes us to this week's mirror message, which if you haven't seen last week,
Yes,
you know it's
the most emotional, heartbreaking, poignant mirror message we've had in Drag Race history. Like
it's so
it's
beautiful. It's
yes,
so
yes,
like poignant
devastating.
and
Absolutely.
yeah, it says from Margaret, ni modo, LOL, no hagan chistes sin mí. Y ya.
I mean, yeah, like what else is
Great,
there to say? Yeah,
right? I mean, she
Uh,
already kind of said everything she needed to on the runway,
yeah.
right? Like,
So
so great.
how would you translate Nimodo?
That's hard because be like whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. It's between whatever and oh well,
oh well, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So yeah, basically that.
oh, I
Mhm.
think oh well's probably
Mhm.
closer. That
Mhm.
seems better. Um, well, they mentioned the tarot reading that happened last week and how it predicted that even though Margaret didn't get the happy squirrel card, she got the death card, and that was the end of her drag race, run. So far,
I love that the
so far.
moment they mentioned the tarot reading, Christian went pointing at Regina like, set her on fire. She's a witch. She's a witch.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was good. Lolita's video message pops up the next day when they are in the workroom, and it's about sewing and some nasty story about a Frenchman, right? So they kind of know what they're going to do. And she enters the workroom and introduces the mini reto, which is essentially the queens dragging up luchador masks um, and having to get into drag to do a luchador themed photo shoot.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not, so we'll get
Yeah,
there. It's not
exactly.
like a luchador fighting challenge,
Yeah,
it's a
drag
photo
is
shoot,
not a
right?
contact sport.
Right.
So
So
I love that. First of all, I love that Valentina came into the workroom. Like in a little
writing
cart.
it.
Yeah, yeah. And then when they were picking, when they were talking about like the mini challenge and basically wrestling and being luchadores, Valentina was like, well, just remember that we are niñas bien, and I was thinking like I think we haven't mentioned Niñas Bien so far on the season, so like I just thought that it would be a nice moment of explaining the reference. So Niñas Bien sounds like good girls, but not really. That would be like Niñas Buenas. Niñas
Buenas.
Bien is more like, so you can use it for rich girls, like girls that have money, but you can also
Mm-hmm.
use it regardless of money. You can also use it for like girls that have had good upbringing. You know what I mean? And so
Okay.
that takes into consideration like a lot of things. I don't party a lot, or like I don't mess with guys, or like like I'm yes, I'm a good girl, but it's like
I'm a good girl, I am.
yes, exactly. So it's
That's a
like
little My Fair Lady for you.
so it's kind of like that to be niña bien, and then you can add like the toda la vida. So like all my life I've been like niña bien de toda la vida. There's actually a this is like kind of crazy, but there's a brand of uh intimate cream for like infections and things that they literally have ads on TV, Lo Mecan, el de las niñas bien. You know, because it's like for
Okay.
the niñas bien, you know. Anyway.
Well, another phrase that's becoming very common all across Mexico is "Mi Chicle, Lupe." And they say it several times this episode, so it makes me feel like, is this the new milanesa empanizada?
So
Like, who knows?
here's the thing. We said, I think it was probably on the second episode when
Yeah,
they had to do the quinceañera dress. We kind of said like, oh, we don't know what it means, but it probably
I
has to do with talking. And you
yeah.
said that they actually subtitled it as something that had to do
Hmm.
with talking. But then after this episode and a little bit of research, I realized that it's just like a good old regular like, oh my god, you know, or like, oh my lord, you know, like something like that. Um, because so I tracked down the origins, and
Ooh,
it's between because no, I couldn't find anything precise, but it's between two possible origins or maybe a mix of the two.
okay.
One is these monkeys, these IKEA monkeys. Were they from IKEA? I think they were from IKEA. They started doing memes, TikToks with these two monkeys and a voice filter that sounded like this on TikTok. And they were like, one of them was Lupe and the other one was Joaquin. And they were like, hola Joaquin, ¿cómo estás? And Lupe would respond like, estoy muy bien, Lupe, ¿cómo estás tú? And like things like that, you know? And so
Okay.
that's,
Wait, but you said they were IKEA monkeys?
yes, IKEA monkeys.
Like the
The
Swedish
IKEA,
store?
yes, Jungelskog, the orangutan.
Wait, but
Yes,
why? What does it have to do with IKEA?
nothing. They just got the monkeys from IKEA and they started doing TikToks and everybody it got on.
Like toy monkeys?
Yes.
Oh my God, I thought you were talking about footage of like real monkeys.
No, that is speaking with a
Hey,
voice filter. No. And so, anyway, so one of them was called Lupe, so maybe it's from there. But then there's also this TikTok of a girl, a
wait, did they
little
mention
girl.
chicle in that video?
No, I couldn't find if there's a point where they mentioned the chicle. But there's a TikTok of this little girl, like 1 year old, that is like looking at the camera this close and with a gum in her mouth. She's chewing gum because here in Mexico we chew gum since the moment we're born, and she's chewing gum, but she opens her mouth so much that the gum falls out, and she goes like, "I'm mi chicle." She doesn't say Lupe, but she says, "I'm mi chicle." So
Okay.
somewhere in there, there's the origin of I'm mi chicle Lupe.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, that is not like the chicle is not your chalk. It's just like, oh my lord, you
I
know.
can't separate it in my mind though from being about
I
tucking.
mean,
So,
it. I mean, yeah, it also makes sense. But
but it
you know
sounds just
what?
like an exclamation,
You know
like a
what?
yeah.
We're gonna send this to Christian, and Christian is gonna tell us what the heck is it means.
Christian, let
Please,
us know
yes,
because
please.
I need to know. Um, we get a cute little scene of them transforming like in front of a dressing room, like they go in with their mask, and then when they come out, they're in drag and with their mask. Then there's this other thing that you wanted to mention.
Oh yeah, I mean, throughout the challenge, they're gonna mention Rudos and Técnicos, and that just means for wrestling fans in the U.S. who don't know about lucha libre in Mexico, Rudos are the heels and Técnicos are the faces. So yeah, so basically, Rudos are the bad guys and Técnicos are the good guys. So yeah,
Ah, okay.
yeah, yeah.
Well, didn't
But
Valentina say
also,
something about like, wasn't there a joke about like one of them saying, "Oh, she's activo," and then like, "Oh, técnico," or
yeah,
whatever. Like,
exactly.
so I actually think most American, white American gays, and maybe some Black American gays, who knows, but they don't know the
Yeah,
activo and pasivo.
I just realized that you're
They don't know
right.
what that means.
Yeah, so basically we don't have tops and bottoms. We have
Bottoms. Hmm.
activos and pasivos. So the top is the activo, the active, and the bottom is the pasivo, the passive.
Yeah.
And yeah, verse is still verse because it's versatile. That's the same.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Okay.
and they also Rudos and Técnicos. I just wanna quick shout out to this amazing Mexican documentary that is really iconic in Mexican queer cinema history, called Quebranto, where we see the life of this incredible trans actress called Coral Bonelli. And at some point, she's talking about doing sex work on the street, and she says that that, you know, the girls, the dolls, kind of call themselves Rudas and Técnicas, and Rudas is if you steal from the Johns, and Técnicas is if you don't. So
How funny.
that's also what I had in my mind when they were like, "Oh, I'm Ruda, I'm Técnicas."
Nice.
So yeah. Anyway,
Great. um, they all, you know, have to come up with names for their luchadora and then pose in this photo shoot. So Galavaro goes first, and she says her name is Chiara Roja.
and Lolita was like so disappointed because it's like, okay, because everybody had like, I mean, at that point we didn't know everybody else's names because she was the first, but the first one out of the right off the bat was like Chara Roja, because that's literally what I'm wearing. Like, she didn't come up with a
Yeah,
clever name. She
right.
was like, this is what I'm
Well,
wearing.
yeah, unfortunately for her, the person who goes next is Matraka, and she doesn't just tell them that her name is La
She has a
Guarachita. She's
whole
like,
story.
es un desmadre, baila cumbia, le dan su guagamon, baila con la, you know, chela en su cabeza, besa bien. She has a whole character like planned out for who this luchadora is.
Do
She
you,
says,
do you know
y
what's a
así muy amena ella.
do you know what's a kawamon?
Guagamon, well, okay, correct me if
Kawama.
I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. It is referring to a beer or a
Yeah.
drink, but doesn't it also mean like turtle?
Yes. So
Okay.
look, there's a species of turtle that is the kawama, but it's also a kawama. It's a 40 ounce.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
see, I'm Mexican.
I'm drunk in any language.
I don't even drink.
Anyway,
So the thing I want to mention about Matraka in this photo shoot is that like what she's so great because she has like all these listones on her, you know, mask, and then when she knows they're about to do the photo, she like moves her head so that like the ribbons will be like in flight in the picture, right? So like she knows what she's doing. That's kind of
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Okay, so here's what's crazy is that um I didn't start writing in my notes down anyone hitting somebody with something until Lady Quero.
Mm.
I hadn't had my coffee yet, so if I missed something, it was 6:30 in the morning when I watched this. Okay, so
The funny thing about this is that by the end of this mini challenge, I was like, because I thought they were gonna flip from Ramvid to
yeah,
Rodolfo, you know, back and forth. But no, like all of the hitting the guy over the head, it was all
yeah,
Ramvid. So like, poor guy, like you're like you're
yeah,
gonna get the shit kicked out today. And also Lady Quero, because it was first Calabaron Matraca, and then Lady Quero came in with Regina and Christian. And I don't know if she didn't really knew what the challenge was about. Lady Quero got on the ring, and she literally went on, like she literally started to fight Ramvid. And Lolita had to go like, no, it's a photo shoot.
it's a photo shoot challenge. Yeah, Lady Quero wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
But she did say her name was Chicatana Vengativa. However, she
Okay.
said it in that stupid skit voice that I hate, that us Mexicans seem to love to do in skits. Please don't. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I don't like it. I don't like
Oh
it.
my god.
So let's move on because
Okay.
next was
Anyway,
Regina.
Chicatana, it's a bug. She said that it's a bug with a big ass. So.
But I love names that sound like Chicatana Vengativa. Like they kind of like they're like
Yeah,
you
it
know what
sounds
I
like
mean?
drag names, yeah, because like luchador names are basically drag names.
There's like that bee. There's a bee in southern Mexico that is. I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but there it's called Melipona yucatanica, and I was like, if that's not like a, you know, drag name, it's great. I love it. Anyway, Regina goes next, and her name is Coyote Cojo. Regina gets nasty with like a bottle and, you know, breaks it over his head, but she's like touching this guy everywhere. It's a little much, but it's okay, whatever. Um, Next, of course, we have Cristian Peralta, transformista oficial padre de la familia. She says her name is La Araña Peluda and not Cristian Peralta, transformista oficial padre de familia. She breaks a chair over this guy. Yeah. Anyway.
So anyway, the challenge was won by Ramvid because he deserves an extra bonus.
You know, I've wondered why. Maybe there's like some sort of like weird issues or legal issues or whatever, but like we've now had at least what 2 photo shoots, like the piñata and this luchador like photo shoot, right? But why not release like a photo book?
that's something that I don't know if it has happened at some point because I came into the Drag Race fandom like in season 7, but like, have they ever released the photos somewhere?
I don't think so.
So many photo shoot challenges over the years, and it's like we
Yeah,
want to see the photos, you know.
right.
So
They could,
let's
that
rep for the local girls. In La Más Draga, they released the photo shoots on the
right.
Instagram.
So
Yeah.
there we go. Yep. But I want a physical book I can
Oh
hold.
wow. Okay.
Anyway, um, that takes us to the Maxi Reto, which is they introduce as Denim, Eleganza, Extravaganza. Um, it's essentially a Levi's design and sewing challenge.
So you didn't know this, and maybe some other people don't know as well. But in Spanish, denim is mezclilla. So yeah.
Mezclilla, I didn't know. I didn't know. Um, Regina and Christian are shook, like they're feeling nervous, and you can
They
like
were
see it in their face.
the editors were so careful to sprinkle throughout the first half, the first like 10 minutes of the episode, uh, all these lines, throwaway lines of queens going like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I hope it's not a sewing challenge. I don't know
Right.
what's gonna happen, but I hope they don't make a sew over and over again. And then this.
Yeah, I wonder what's gonna happen. Um, because Lady Guerrero with that voice won the challenge, she gets to like run for the denim that they've set up in the whatever, like 5 seconds before everybody else.
And those 5 seconds of advantage, that's what it took for her to run in
To get
heels
there.
from
I know, right?
where they were to the table. So it's like, okay.
What I thought, literally what I thought to what I went in my head in that moment when she took her the 5 seconds was, is it Victoria Scone where she's like crawling to the podium and she's like, she's gonna make it. She's gonna make it. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen on Drag Race. It like cracked me up. So that's kind of what I went to. When the rest of them get to run, Matraka goes, I noticed that she goes right for the patterned shirt. And I thought it was so smart because she does end up getting some denim, but you'll see later that she like incorporates both by using patterned shirts that are Levi's brand and not just denim. I was like, oh, already hers is going to look different from everybody else's, and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So the thing that I thought was really funny, I wrote this whole note in Spanish for some reason. Regina enreda su cuerpo completa en esta alfombra. Like she's like, and she like won't let go. And Christian keeps trying to get it from her, and it does not work.
When that happened, I thought like, oh girl, like all of this drama for her not to use it in the end because I know she's not gonna use it, but she ends up using it.
Right.
So good for her. And so before they leave, Valentina and Lolita obviously go like, and remember, don't fuck it up. But like here in Mexico, instead of don't fuck it up, we're saying that Lolita and Valentina are saying every challenge they're saying no la caguen, And so it's similar to in Drag Race España, they also go like no la caguemos. Because it's
Because
cagar.
they fancy there.
Cagar is basically to fuck something up. If you si la cagas en algo, if you fuck something up. But the thing is that it's also to poop or to shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that the queens have already their own inside joke because Lolita and Valentina go like no la caguen and they leave, and the queens go like too late, I already shut myself. I just got like, oh my god, that's incredible because for like any challenge, like don't fuck it up. No, I already shut myself.
Yeah, it's weird because no la caguen is more like the only phrase we have in English that kind of is like it's no, don't fuck it up. But if you're trying to like be literal, the
Yes,
only
exactly.
phrase we have that's like closer is like don't shit the bed is like how we
Yes,
would
of
say it,
course.
right?
You you did you help me? You helped me with that. I'm gonna give you the credit. But
Oh,
there was this
yeah, that was
yes, there was
okay.
this
I totally
challenge.
forgot.
There was this challenge, mini challenge on La Más Draga season 5, subtitled by me, and it was basically because it was sponsored by fiber pills, for bottoming, and because basically if they lost, if they missed, if they responded a question incorrectly, this kind of like bucket of mud would fall on them, but like it looked like poop. And the show and the mini show that they did within the episode was called No La Caguen, because it was a pun on that, on like shitting yourself and like bottoming and blah blah blah. And so I was like, how can I retain the joke, while translating this? And you helped me with some phrases, and I was like, yes, of course, don't shit the bed. That is how I translated it. No la caguen, don't shit the bed. And when they failed and got the mud on them, I would subtitle, you shut the bed, and it was really.
So they get started,
Yes.
and guess what?
What?
Ninguna sabe coser. Like none of them know how to sew.
And they acknowledge what we had. They acknowledge what we said last episode, which is that literally the 2 or 3 queens that could sew have already left.
Bye-bye. Right. They have sashayed away.
Yes. Agata is like, well, okay, there's nobody left.
Here's the funny thing that I thought of. This is a little bit of a tangent. But when I thought about that, about like, oh, how the queens who sew, they've like sashayed away. And then I had to think like, wait a minute, no. Like usually on the international versions, the final episode, they bring back the whole cast to like do the runway, show kind of what their final runway look would have been, so that they kind of still get to use it. And I was like, oh, they can't just send these girls back to Mexico. They're probably sitting in the hotel in Colombia, like waiting. Can you imagine like Noir and like who went out first? Was it Vermelia?
No, first was la lady. No, not lady. Miss Vallarta.
Oh, Miss Vallarta. Imagine her sitting in the hotel all this time. Like, I can't. Anyway, if you want to see a Mexican who can sew, stay tuned for my book, Eat Your Heart Out, coming out next year. Anyway. So the girls get to work. Matraka mentions her dad, like teaching her how to make like belts and stuff, like leather goods, right?
Yeah. It felt very Coco, very like this is the family business.
Yes, yep, yeah. A little bit. And she mentions that she wants her look to look kind of chola, and that made me excited. I was like, ooh, yes, okay, here we go. Yes.
But when Matraka is talking about what her family does, the family business of leather goods, she mentions that they do jackets and stuff. And Lady Kate is like, oh, you do chaquetas. Like, can you do a chaqueta for me? Can you make a chaqueta for me? And so the thing is that chaqueta is a Mexican slang for hand job. We actually, there are some places in Mexico where they do use chaqueta as jackets, I think in the north. But in most of the country, we know that chaqueta is hand job, so we use chamarra instead. But yeah, anyway, so like me puedes hacer una chaqueta could mean could you make a jacket for me, but also can you exactly
can you jack me?
Yes.
Oh my god.
So anyway, that's one thing, and they also use it for a pun on the runway later, and also this is really funny because it's a piece of slang, the one that I'm gonna mention, that it's become pretty famous mainstream lately, but we hadn't heard it in on Drag Race yet, which is viejo. So Matraka goes like, oh yeah, I can do a little bit of sewing, but like puntadas viejas. Viejo literally means old, but if you say it like that, like viejo, it just means like shitty, like not worth it, like dumb, like it's not good, and so you can use it for everything. You can use it like I don't know, like this pen, pinche pluma vieja, or like my microphone, like mi micrófono viejo. And so it used to be like very very gay Mexican slang, and I don't know the exact origin because some people say that it belongs to Wendy Guevara, that I'm going to talk about in a second, but some other people, I personally think that it comes from like just gay culture in general, and the person who popularized it was Burrita Burrona, and because Burrita Burrona and Wendy Guevara know each other, that's probably where Wendy took it, and she's now in La Casa de los Famosos, which we talked about how it's similar to Big Brother, and she's in La Casa de los Famosos. She's a trans woman who became famous because of a meme of her in the middle of nowhere with a friend after some guys left them there. And so they recorded a video saying like, we're lost, oh my God. Saying like, estamos perdidas, perdidas. And so she became like, literally like from day to night, like it was from night to day, sorry. It was like instantaneous how she became ultra famous. And she started live streaming literally her life. Like she would do her makeup and talk to people, or like she would just hang out with her friends. And it became this huge phenomenon. But it was very, very much like gay and like really TikTok centered, you know, because they were really famous on TikTok. But like, for example, my mom loves Las Perdidas, you know, Wendy and her friends, because of TikTok, you know, because she would watch them on TikTok and be like, oh my God, they're so dumb, but I love them. and um, and then when Wendy got into La Casa de los Famosos, like suddenly she blew up like to the mainstream, so that straight people who would never heard of her, either from TikTok or from gay culture, like suddenly they fell in love with her, and she's like so close to winning. And like the idea of a trans woman winning, you know, a big reality show on in Mexico, it's like wild.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she literally entered the house with a lot of gay catchphrases that we have heard of from, you know, from years, and suddenly everybody's saying them now. So like literally, my parents are walking around the house being like, "Ah, esta cosa vieja."
I mean, that's just like here where everyone's like tea shade.
Yes,
Now
exactly.
they say that like
literally like that.
yeah.
But you know what? That's progress. So
Yeah.
whatever. So anyway, Matraka can do puntadas viejas.
That brings us to Elimination Day. In the workroom, they have, you know, one of these conversations that we've come to know on Drag Race. And it starts out with Regina talking about taking the meaning back from like some of the slurs that she was called, some of the J words she was called, and how drag is sort of her tribute to the women in her life, especially her mom. Christian mentions meeting his, well, I say wife, but I think, you know, they're not married yet, but partner, when he was working dressed up as Alejandra Guzman. It's kind of a great little story. And Lady Queros starts talking about, I related to this very much, of like the girls in his class in school who like stood up for him. It made me a little emotional. Just because like I remember being made fun of by some guy, and there was a girl who, you know, she was a scary goth girl, and she turned around and like basically threatened him. It was, you know, if he made fun of me again. It was great. And yeah, I feel like we, you know, we've got those friends that we grew up with that stand up for us, like the girls, you know, and that's why we want to hang out with them. Lady Quero then mentions,
Can I confess something? Can I be
sure,
vulnerable on the pod?
yes, that's how people that fall in love with you.
Shut up. So, oh God, this is gonna be like Kimora Black crying about like not wearing heels and stuff like that. So I never, from the moment I stepped into kindergarten to the moment I graduated high school, I never got bullied for being gay. Because, and it's something that I learned to be grateful for. I was like, oh God, like being fat all my life has been terrible, but like I need to be grateful because my fatness shielded my gayness.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody, the first thing that they would see, you know, that they would notice from me was that I was fat. And so all my bullying, that doesn't mean that I was a bullying. I was bullied like relentlessly, but because I was fat. So nobody ever noticed that I was very artistic and that I was flamboyant and there was this and that, because they were so busy bullying me for being fat. And so obviously I hated that, and that was, you know, terrible throughout my childhood. But recently I was like, oh, thank you, fatness, for protecting me, because I think I wouldn't have survived gay bullying, to be honest. And so
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how your relationship to being gay was heavily affected by your relationship to being fat,
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
those things interacted, how one shielded you from the other. Yeah, that's interesting.
Anyway.
I mean, Lady Keto talks about some family tragedy happening with the death in the family, meaning that she had to. They then sent Lady Keto at the age of 10 to go take care of his abuela. I think he mentions because he was the oldest child in the family. Christian comes over and says the same thing happened to her, but this seemed like a bit of a leap to me. She says to her, trigger warning for those of you who will be talking about abuse of a specific kind. But she assumes, it seemed weird to me, but who knows? She assumes and tells Lady Quero, I assume this means you were sexually abused. And I don't know how she kind of made that, like going to live with your grandma, your abuela, how that leads to that. But Lady Quero says that, yeah, that it ends up being true. And Christian says that, she can see that in her. So there must be something there. I don't know what that means, but
So somebody, I looked it up on Twitter, and somebody tweeted something that to me sounded like really insightful and smart, a smart way of reading into this, which is basically that when you grow up somewhere that is not your home, that makes you vulnerable to abuse.
hmm,
So it's not so much like a leap, but more
the
like oh
situation that you were put
oh,
in.
I am realizing that you grew up in this very specific context. So because I'm sure that made you vulnerable to this, I'm sure that you went through this. And Lady Cat is like, oh, I did. It's not so much
Mhm.
guessing as like assuming because of the specific context of taking a child from his home and literally, making him grow up somewhere else.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Lady Keto says that she's never told her family this because this made me so sad. She says she says she never told her family that this happened because she was afraid that she would hurt them with her pain.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's so heavy, fuerte. Like what? So anyway,
So
it's
I know that obviously abuse and SA are like rampant all over the world. That is not something exclusive to a country. But here in Mexico, a while ago, somebody started a hashtag called "My First Abuse," and it was aimed at women to kind of like to share their stories of the first time that they got abused,
yeah.
in the street, in their families, at school, the workplace. And the surprising thing for some, and not surprising for others, but like the shocking thing, was that when you would read a few of these, you started to realize the pattern
Uh-huh.
that most
A lot
women
of
in
that shared.
Mexico, their first time being abused was when they were literally under 12 years old.
Mm.
So it went from literally men walking down the street to like obviously people in their families. And so what we started realizing was that in Mexico is not just that it's a place that is not kind to their own women, but it's a place that it's pretty, PD in a way, to minors, uh, because of I don't know why. Like it's just a place where not only is it dangerous to be a woman, it's dangerous to be a girl, a child.
Mhm.
So obviously this goes as well to male victims. Um, but something that also came out from that was that it's pretty common for girls to be like, hey, this happened to me, and their families to be like, no, it didn't. We
Mhm.
literally do not believe you. And that's like literally like so commonplace in Mexico. It's almost part of our culture, unfortunately. So yeah.
I don't even know what to say anyway, so maybe we should move on. After this conversation, it cuts us to the main stage, um, where we get the entrances of Lolita and Valentina. Banana's giving RuPaul, right? I thought this was like a very Ru inspired look. And Maria Valentina, I wrote she's giving Smurfette, she's giving Avatar Alien, she's serving Diva Plava Laguna because she's blue.
Yeah. But she's also like the queen of Tlaloca.
Yeah, the feathers were really cool. It's a cool look.
So I was like, okay, so what I was like very tamer. Why is she blue? And I was also like, oh, what a coincidence that Mabel, that we're gonna talk about her in a
That's what I was
second,
gonna say.
is wearing like blue and gold bracelets because they're wearing blue and gold. And then it hit me that those are the Levi's colors. Gold
Yes,
because of the zipper and the star and the label, and blue because of the denim. So, yeah.
Yep. Oscar Madrazo is giving Jambi from Pee Wee's Playhouse with this turban. They introduced the guest judge, who is Mabel Cadena. We talked a little bit about her last week, but you have most likely seen her in Wakanda Forever as Namora. But you mentioned that she's done a lot of other movies, El Baile de los 41.
Yes. So
one that you subtitled, right?
Yes. So I was gonna say that obviously, most people will know her from Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. She played Namora, and people in Mexico, we went wild when they announced her casting because it was like, obviously, we love the fact that Tenoch was there, but Tenoch has already this huge career in Mexico, so and has made a bunch of projects in the U.S. So it was like great, but at the same time, it was like, well, it's just a successful guy getting more success. But the moment that Mabel, that was, this actress from just a couple of TV shows and just a couple of movies, got this role, was like, humongous here. So all of her fans were like really excited, especially because more people would get to know her. And so you can watch two of her movies on Netflix worldwide. One is El Baile de los 41 that we have talked about, how it's this story of these gay men and gender non-conforming people in the early 1900s getting busted at a party and being forced to like clean the streets and cut their hair in public, wearing dresses.
And fight indigenous Mexicans in the South in the army.
Oh yeah,
that was another thing they were forced to do.
So it's the wonderful thing about El Baile de los 41 is that yes, obviously there's this tragedy in the end, but the movie really shows the kind of like the fabulousness of their lives before that. They were hiding and everything, but at the end of the day, the movie really focuses on, well, when they were hiding, they were happy because they were together.
Yeah, it's the first thing I ever saw her in, and she's so intense in that movie. She's really good. If you want to see my Baile de los 41 themed drag I did for my 41st birthday, you can see it here, or there's a whole article about my experience doing it on the website Latinx Spaces.
Yes.
But anyway, moving on.
Yes, I also wanted to mention because I got a platform, and to our 100 viewers,
like banana,
yes,
banana
exactly.
A few weeks ago, you got a platform.
And to our 140 viewers for each episode, I want to tell you to go watch La Diosa del Asfalto, the Asphalt Goddess, that I subtitled. But I want you to watch it not because I've subtitled it, well, of course, because I've subtitled it, but because it's a wonderful movie about sisterhood in the most tragic and harsh of environments. It's set in the 80s, but it's not only set in the 80s, but set in in a very marginalized neighborhood in Mexico City. And so the challenge of subtitling was pretty hard because it was like a whole new language that I didn't know. Like it was a Spanish, but it's Spanish from the 80s in Mexico City in a very specific neighborhood. So yeah, I had a lot of fun subtitling it. You can watch it on Netflix. And Mabel plays a wonderful role there as Ramira, that is kind of like the leader of this gang of girls, and she's queer in the movie. and it's an amazing character. Like I said last episode, I think she's the best part of the movie, and yeah, so go watch La Diosa del Asfalto and go watch El Baile de los 41. Obviously, she has other projects, but we wanted to highlight these because they are queer and because they are easy to access to people all over the world. And also, I want to mention that she was born in Atizapan, in el Estado de Mexico, where your family is from el Estado de Mexico. But she grew up in Minatitlan, Veracruz, and that is where I grew up. I wasn't born there, but that's where I grew up in Minatitlan. And so yeah, and Salma Hayek was born and raised in Coatzacoalcos, so
Coatzacoalcos, right?
and
Yeah.
Coatzacoalcos is literally like half an hour away from Minatitlan. So yeah. Anyway, Veracruz represent.
Well, you and Mabel weren't born there, but it pulled you there. It pulled you straight there.
Yeah.
So there's a few things I want to mention about her real quick before we move on. The first is that I found it so impressive when I heard about her audition for Wakanda Forever, because she mentioned that she was like walking through like a river and she was horseback riding with no saddle, and that she was speaking in multiple languages. And I'm like, look at all this stuff that she had to do for this one role. And like, we praise so many people for like no shade, because it is amazing, but like an actress from England or from US or from Australia who's like, oh my gosh, they did the accent so convincingly. It's like, girl, she learned new languages for this movie. She trained to fight. She knew how to like do all this crazy stuff. And I just think it was so impressive. And when I think about her, I think about this like strong, powerful intensity that is like most likely next to like the word chingona in the dictionary. You know what I mean? Like that's what you would see as a picture of Mabel. So I think that's just really cool. The other thing I wanted to mention is that here on the runway, she tells Valentina that she loves the blue, which I found to be such a great nod to her character in Wakanda Forever, because she has blue skin in that movie. And so that was kind of a cool little link there. I don't think that's what necessarily inspired Valentina's look, but it was nice that like there was that connection. And the last thing is that they ask her, I think it's Banana, asks her, like, what's the key to being an international star? And her answer's so great. She just says, like, believing that you are one. And like, that's, I don't know, it was really cool. It was fun.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
in Spanish, well, in Mexican Spanish, creértela, it is, believing in yourself, something like that. But it's also a little bit further than that. It's kind of like realizing that you, even though you still got a way to go, like you're already there. You know what I mean? It's more
it's
like when they say like créetela, like creértela, it's kind of like that, like
it's like
we have done that to each other several times when we're like down on ourselves, like, oh my god, my career this, my career that, and we're like, look at what you have already done, dude. Like come on, like you, obviously there's a way to go, but like you already done a lot of things. So
it's
yeah.
so hard to like I mean, you know better than me. It's so hard to translate, because when I hear in Spanish, when I hear creértela, like, okay, literally, but like believe it, right? But it feels like, we'll make it happen because it's already true.
Yes.
That's what that feels like to hear. That takes us to the runway, and
Yeah.
you want to mention something about jeans real quick.
Yes. So it's a very quick. We're not gonna do a whole show, a whole episode about jeans.
Retrospective.
Yes, a whole retrospective about jeans. But
Okay, I might have to lay down, girl.
yes, let me tell you the story of jeans. So anyway, they do a couple of puns with jeans, the band, but also like one of their songs that was literally called "Me pongo mis jeans." I put my jeans on, and the chorus is like me pongo mis jeans. That's why Valentina said like, oh, se pone sus jeans or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jeans is a girl band that we mentioned, I think, in our first episode or a second one. It's a girl band that is literally like, girl, they raised a whole generation of gays in the 90s and the 2000s. Like I said, like when we were kids and they started their career in the 90s, it wasn't necessarily obviously a gay thing for us when we were children, but it was like something that we could listen to and like be faggy for a while. without necessarily feeling like we were listening to something forbidden. You know what I mean? Because it was just the music on the radio. And then when that generation grew up and started going to clubs in the 2000s, there was this phenomenon in some clubs in Mexico City and maybe other parts of Mexico, I'm not really sure, of like doing choreographed dances to jeans songs because they had so specific choreography in their music videos and stuff that literally gays would learn them and do contests. Like you would get your friends together and literally like, okay, we're gonna be
have
jeans
a dance
for
battle.
today. Yes, exactly, and have dances. No, really. And it was so it was like in a specific club in Mexico City that you would go and you would see like freaking tens of gays in the middle of the dance floor just dancing unison, you know, because they all knew the choreography to a jeans song.
I love that.
So that's like how much, when I say they raised the generation of gays, I'm not being hyperbolic. Anyway, so they made a lot of puns, a couple of puns of jeans in this episode, and I was so sure that we were gonna get a jeans lip sync song, and we didn't.
Right, but
and
it
that
doesn't
was
happen.
so frustrating. So anyway, that is my history with jeans.
Yeah. Well, should we review these looks?
Yes, absolutely. So anyway, first off is Christian, and Christian did a review that Valentina was very grateful for, and I was very grateful for her because the moment she walked out the runway, I was like, oh no, that's so no. But the moment she did the review, yes, exactly,
it looked like she
a
just
jacket
took
with
a
no
jacket,
pants. Yes,
and put it on.
Very Liza Minnelli jacket, no pants.
Yes.
And but then she revealed the Bob Mackie inspired look, and I love it. I think it looks pretty cool.
She kind of sold it too. Like,
girl, she's
the way she was on the runway with it. Yes,
she's
like she
her
really
heart out. Yes.
Okay.
They had to split hairs with everybody because the looks were so great that they obviously had to be like, oh, this doesn't look like a gala look, and it doesn't. But like whatever, it looks great. Next up, we have Galavaro. And yes, everybody praised her. And it was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And you're the fashion queen along with Matraka and blah, blah. I didn't live for this.
Same. I thought it was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like the bottom was interesting, but if it had been maybe twice as voluminous.
Yeah. And I feel like she needed to cinch a little bit more.
Maybe, right. But maybe what they're seeing that we can't see because it's TV is they're saying that the finishings were really good. It's great. I can't see that from like here. Like I thought it was like okay and a little shapeless. Anyway.
Next up is Quintero, and I kind of love it. I really love it.
I thought it was cool, but I thought that they were going to say it was way too simple, and they didn't.
I mean, I love that this is not just a piece of fabric wrapped around. You know what I mean? Like it has the kind of like the edge, and
it has like an interesting trim.
Yes, and the bag is pretty cute. You know the Olivia.
That's
bag.
Great. I love this little bag. That was so funny. I wish that she had made like maybe sewn two of them together and had like a clutch. Like that would, but it doesn't. It wouldn't have gone with this outfit. Like there's more punk, like a little pocket, you know. Like,
and I really love the choker that she did.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah. She thought about it, and it was good.
And I love Lolita's comment of like, I wouldn't have worn those shoes, but then again, I don't know how to dress either.
Yeah, she's like, but whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. Don't believe me.
They call it milanesa en mezclilla.
Yes.
Right. So that was like, even the judges know that's a thing.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so they are kind of like going with their catchphrases because they also when they talk about Regina, as we're gonna see now, they call her Mami Chula, you know, for everything because that's kind of like Regina. Regina calls everybody that, you know, Mami Chula. Next up is Matraka, and I am obsessed with this. I love this so much. Oh my God, speak, Terry, speak.
You love this?
I am obsessed with this. It looks incredible.
Me too.
I hate you so much.
So the funny thing about this picture though is that
she changed the wig. I don't know.
So she's wearing like little like
You know, so in fashion photo review, they take the pictures that we see. Well, now we see video, but we used to see pictures. they would take those pictures before they would walk out the runway. I don't know when they take this. So maybe they take them after. I don't know. But like, yeah, she's not wearing the same hair. Anyway.
I will say, I've never been that big of a fan of like the one leg thing. Like Gottmik did that.
Yeah,
like
I was thinking about that. Oh God, I didn't like that.
But this is so good.
Yes.
Yeah, this is really good.
Yes.
And I like the thing I do like about this leg is that it's open and connected with chains that then also like her earrings are connected with chains. So like it's not like it's just some thing down here. It's part of like the whole look, which they mention about Matraka. They say that like she can put together a whole thing.
We mention it like it's not just about yes, you don't have to sew if you want to go on Drag Race. You have to be able to put something that has some certain taste level together, you know? And I feel like, yeah, maybe Matraka is not like a couturier or whatever, but the taste is there and the creativity is there, you know? So
they refer to her as Selena, and they call her Cholindrina, which I thought was hilarious.
Not Selena. Anything for Salinas. So yeah, I love her, and I love that Valentina is like, you're my fashion queen of the season, and then like she feels kind of bad, and he's like, well, you too, Gala, sure.
I wouldn't have said that, not for this look, for Gala.
But also, something weird happened in editing. I don't know if you noticed it the way that I did, but Lolita basically like praised her in a way that feels like it felt almost like the way that they praise the queens in the final episode. You know what I mean? When they go
maybe
like,
a little bit.
Yeah, when they go like, oh, you did this throughout the season and blah blah.
Right.
It felt like very like it went on and on and on. Like it was like, girl, you're praising her. Like I love her, but like you're praising her a little bit too much for like just a regular episode. Like it felt weird, you know. But yeah, and so Regina's look, I like it. Like I think it's pretty great for someone who doesn't know how to sew. But they are right that because of her character, not only because of her age, but because of the character that she always plays in drag, she tends to like, oh, I'm an old woman, and it's like, well, you don't have to be at 41.
So they, like, yeah, when they mentioned that, I thought, oh, they're kind of right. If she had not worn that big, like,
and that
jewelry and that wig, imagine a different wig that like was a bit more like edgy.
She literally
cool,
looks like a banda singer in Mexico. She looks like Ana Barbara or somebody like that. Yeah,
I think like a bear kind of like neckline with this outfit. You know, it's not quite a gown because you can see like the pants part and whatever. So to me, that gives it a bit more of an edge. So she should have worn some like cool. Imagine like a kind of like a slicked back short wig, like almost like a 90s model. Like that would have been cool, right? Something a little bit more like what Christian was wearing.
Yeah.
Maybe not that red hair, but the style. Anyway.
Yeah.
Do you have a cheetah of the week? I mean, should we say, how about this? I have a feeling.
Yes.
Why don't we do a 1, 2, 3 and say who our cheetah of the week?
Well, because I have a cheetah and I have a chingona.
Oh, never mind. Tell me who your cheetah is.
So my cheetah is Lady Kara.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
All right.
And my chingona is gonna be chingona for you.
So I'll tell you this. I don't have a cheetah of the week.
You only have a chingona.
I only have a chingona.
So let's say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3.
Matraka.
So yes, she is our chingona this week. So yeah.
Yes. So I think that, you know, when I'm watching Drag Race, someone can come out in something gorgeous, right? And I can acknowledge that, and I can go, oh, this is so pretty or whatever, you know. But the ones that excite me, it's like the way that I measure which one of these is a chingona, which one of these is just like so cool or whatever, is if it makes me want to draw it.
What it makes, yes.
And so there are two looks. There are 2 looks so far from Matraka, maybe 3.
Something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So there's like several looks from Matraka that I really want. I mean, I've been preparing for this convention, but you know, there's some looks that I definitely want to draw that she's done that are just too cool not to draw. So That's my chila of the week. Do you have a churpia?
I, I
I
don't
don't think,
because
how do I
I
say this?
don't
I don't think
because
any of them are bad enough that they deserve a churpia this
yes,
week.
exactly, because like the
And
one that I like the least, which is Gala, I wouldn't call it like a churpia, you know what I mean? Like
it's not
it's
that,
just
yeah, it's not
a
that bad.
yeah,
It's, how about, I feel like doing a churpia this week would sort of negate Lolita's emotional state
yeah, yeah,
on in the judges panel, and she,
yeah.
like
Actually,
I kind of like, I didn't get emotional, but I understood what she was feeling, because I was like, we have waited so long for like
yeah,
Mexican excellence in the
yeah.
form of a Drag Race franchise, and so Lolita, Banana, whatever you want to, Dolores, whatever you want to call her, was just feeling so much pride and like excited that this was happening. So I don't know, I just really love that. Valentina's proud. She mentions that they all did a really good job. She mentions the Spice Girls and RBD like as if like as a reference to them looking like a girl band,
She could have
which
also said you look like jeans, but okay.
jeans, right. Um, but it made sense. Like Christian and Gala are both wearing the same color red hair. They look like a collection,
Yeah.
right? Like a Project Runway challenge. Um,
So then, as we have seen, in many franchises of Drag Race, the host goes like, well, between us squirrel friends, but instead of a squirrel friends, they kind of go with something that the guest judge has, like if it's an actor, like, they could have said like between us, Tlalocans or something like that, because of Mabel. But they said, this was like ultra specific and I loved it. They said between us Ariel nominees. And so the Ariel, I'm gonna tell you, it's the Mexican Academy Award. So it's the award that we give out, that they give out every year to Mexican movies, and in several categories. They have been giving it since the 40s, I think, or since the 50s, and they stopped giving it for a while, and then they took it again in the 70s, and it's been going nonstop. And yeah, it's a great award. It has obviously its controversies like any award, but I gotta say, I have it right here in my vision board because I want to win one of these days. So when they were like between us Ariel nominees, because Mabel has two Ariel nominations, one for best leading actress for El Baile de los 41, and one for best supporting actress for La Diosa del Asfalto. And so yeah, I hope I get to get a real one of these days. This is so
get a
stupid.
real one. You'll get a
Yeah,
real one
so
day.
this is my Ariel. Anyway.
On the runway, something very interesting happens when they're like narrowing it down, right? I was a little surprised, because in my mind still, I'm like, well, two girls are gonna have to lip sync who
Yeah,
are in the
yeah, yeah,
bottom, and da da
yeah.
da.
Me too. But then the second one they mentioned was Christian. And I was
Right.
like, oh, they're gonna tell her like you're gonna lip sync. And then they tell her she's safe. And I'm like, what? Because then the only
Right.
ones left are Gala and Matraka and Regina. And out
Uh-huh.
of those three, only Regina could lip sync. So it's like, what is going on? But that's when I kind of started going like, oh.
It took me another second, because next they tell Regina that she's saved, and I am like screaming at my TV. I'm like, what? They don't tell them what they're lip syncing for any more than saying like triunfo, right? Like for your triumph.
I know, but like
Give me
in
a
that
break.
moment, I was like, "Have you seen the show, Tamar? Like,
Right.
girls,
They
come
know.
on,
They
come
know.
on!" Like,
So you may
you
as well
knew,
have told
yes,
them, right?
yes.
This week's lip sync, Iconico, was between, like we just mentioned, Galavaro and Matraka, to the song Bizcochito by Rosalia, and not a song by Jeans.
So okay, forget about jeans. Like, okay, and look, it's complicated because on one hand, it's like, okay, yes, they had Gloria Trevi and Drag Race España, fair, okay, she's Mexican and whatever. So okay, maybe we could have a a Spanish artist on a lip sync in Drag Race Mexico. But also, Drag Race España has gone on for 3 seasons. This is our first season of Drag Race Mexico, and we have had so far only Mexican artists. And I was like, to take a spot away from a Mexican artist and give it to a to a Spanish singer that, yes, we all love Rosalia, good for her. I'm gonna let her finish. But at the end of the day, and everybody can do the music the music they want. But I get a little bit pissed off every time that the Grammys and things like that classify her as Latin music, because it's like, well, not exactly, not necessarily. And so this felt like that. This felt like, well, we only get Mexican artists. Here's Rosalia, and he's like, well, she said. And so I don't know. It's just weird, but like it was a great lip sync, so I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah. Thanks, Rosalia, and then we like move on.
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned the lip sync being great, and it was good. It was fun to watch. It was a good lip sync. Matraka wins. And that means that she is the winner of this week's challenge, and she wins, like I said, 25,000 pesos, and she is excited.
I love that 3 times this episode. 1, when Lady Quero won 18,000. 2, when they mentioned the prices again at the beginning of the episode. And 3, when Matraka won 25,000. They have all said at one of these points,
I was just going to say,
yes, for my debt.
I can pay off all my debt now. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Well, nobody sachets away because of this. So that was interesting. It made me think, okay, wait a minute. If everybody's still there and there's still 5, then that means that next week they have to narrow it down to 4. The following week they have to narrow it down to 3. And then they would do a finale. So does that mean we have 3 episodes left? I don't know.
8, 9, 10, 11. Well, ooh.
I am under the assumption that you mentioned something, but I'm not quite sure what it was.
Ooh.
Yeah, didn't you mention, or did somebody mention?
Art.
Right.
Art.
I was wondering
art.
how long it would take you.
Anyway.
Here is your art moment.
Yes.
So first up is Alan Vaz, 28, and they drew Matraka in the Alebrije look. It's crazy. It looks really good.
Yeah.
Then we have this name. I don't know. It's Curone Únicos drew Las Estelares. They didn't just draw one person.
Yeah.
Somebody named Diaz de Arte drew Margaret in her Xochipilli look, which is really cool.
It's so cool because it looks like something out of Plaza Sésamo or something like that.
Right? Yeah, it's like a almost like a puppet.
Yeah.
And El Prado drew Margaret, which
so much.
It's like a fisheye lens too. It's really funny. We then have 3 pieces of art, all by Muerta Mosca, who drew all 3 of the looks on the runway last week from Matraka.
These look amazing.
Yeah, they're really fun. They also, if you go to their Instagram, they did one image of all 3 of them together, so you can see that there too. An artist named Magus Maximov drew 2 queens. They drew Matraka and Margaret. Yeah. Then we have an artist named Mai Ketchum, which I knew you would love because this artist, they are from Mexico City and draw Pokemon.
Oh,
so
wow.
Check out their account for some Pokemon art. They're also the trade of this art moment.
I was gonna say, when you say like I knew you would love him, I was like, why? Because he's shirtless in his picture. I will check him out.
He drew Matraka in the awesome Alebrije look. So
it looks great.
Someone needs to draw this Alebrije as if it's a Pokemon and like put it on.
So artists from for the other franchises, they have paired up queens with different Pokemon, as they were gym leaders. And so they need to do this for Mexico because I feel like it will be pretty good.
Well, start putting together which Pokemon would go with them and we'll figure it out.
I will.
Then to wrap it up, Vavi Glow did a doll repaint, making this doll Margaret, which looks amazing. It's really cool. And that is your art moment for the week. So follow these artists, share their work, and show them some love. Well, next week on Drag Race Mexico, the queens will get to remind us that everybody loves puppet.
Yes.
And they will also perform stand-up comedy. So this is going to be interesting.
Or as Johnny Carmona would say, comedia de pie.
There we go, comedia de pie. The judges panel will be joined by
Manuna. Yay! So Manuna is a stand-up comic, and they are great. They're pretty funny. And right now they're on MasterChef Celebrity. So like, let's see what happens. And and yeah, I always say that I'm the Manuna of Mexican cinema because every time that they take a picture of me like doing a Q&A after a screening of one of my movies, and I always look like I'm doing stand-up. So I once did a Q&A at a movie theater here that is called Cine Tonalá, and that movie theater doubles up as a place, a venue for stand-up. And so when they took a picture of me there doing like a Q&A with a microphone, I was like, I'm the Manuna of Mexican cinema. And I just say that, from time to time. So yeah.
That's great. Well, come on, Manuna. Next week, we'll get to see you judge.
And this is the first time that we get somebody that is an expert on what they're going to do, guest judging their,
You wouldn't call Karima an expert on
musicals? Not really.
Well, on that note, Chucho, tell people where to find you.
You can find me finally updated. Did you like it?
I loved it.
Okay.
All I've ever wanted.
So you can find me on I just forgot all my socials. You can find me on Twitter as Chucho_Q and on TikTok, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Chucho_QMP. And I do have a Blue Sky now, but I'm not going to share it because I'm literally not going to use it. So anyway.
It's just dawned on me that socials sounds a lot like social media.
Yeah, my social media.
There's a pun there somewhere.
Yeah. Welcome to the stage, social media.
Yeah, totally. Welcome to the stage, Jean Shampoo. All the drag names we're learning on this season of Drag Race Mexico. Well, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and TikTok at Terry Blas and at terryblas.com. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, and as always, respeta tu cultura, maricón. It was too funny not to include. I just wanted to, real quick show this because it's too good. Regina's makeup after she takes off the mask. It's like Batman after he like removed. It's so funny that I had to like take a picture of it. Anyway,
that's always been my favorite part of Batman, that everybody's like in the movies like, can you imagine like Christian Bale being all like, yes, this and that, give me a second, I have to put on
right,
my
like I've seen comics about like Batman putting on makeup.
Anyway,
yeah,